Hello everyone, Walk Hill Bethelite here. I want to talk about the Great Tribulation teaching that Jehovah's Witnesses have. And one thing about the Jehovah's Witnesses, they are a doomsday cult. And anytime doomsday doesn't come within a certain measure of time, they have to keep changing their teachings because over time, life in general changes. Different things change over time, so they're constantly having to change their teachings. Well, at some point, they're going to have to change this great tribulation teaching because now we live in more of a technical age. See, the concept with the Great Tribulation teaching is that all the governments turn on Jehovah's Witnesses. And there's this big struggle, and Jehovah's Witnesses are operating underground. And they've even had videos of Jehovah's Witnesses hiding in bunkers and all kinds of different things like that. Well, that made more sense when I was younger. Now, with the technology that we have, let alone the technology that the government has, it makes no sense. Because if the governments, let's say United States and all the governments, there's just this meeting, right, at the United Nations, and they all decide Jehovah's Witnesses are a bunch of little terrorists and we got to get rid of them all. Jehovah's Witnesses would last all of about 30 minutes. Jehovah's Witnesses would last up until they pulled the plug on jw.org. All they have to do is get rid of Bethel. Of course, you're going to sell off all the kingdom halls. You're going to shut down all the kingdom halls. But something Jehovah's Witnesses have never faced, never, is for the headquarters to be shut down. That's never happened. You may have had a situation off in some other country where Jehovah's Witnesses may have gone through some sort of government regulation, but they're still getting direction from the United States branch, Bethel. But you've never, in to my knowledge, in the history of Watchtower, you can correct me if I'm wrong, has the headquarters been shut down. That's never happened. But if there was a great tribulation and the governments were to turn on Watchtower, that's like the first thing that would happen. The first thing that would happen is we're shutting down the headquarters. We're running everybody up out of there. Matter of fact, we're arresting everybody. Now, that right there would shut down everything. Because if they were to, the authorities, go to Bethel, whether it be Walk Hill, Brooklyn, Warwick, and shut them all down and arrest everyone. Well, there's this concept that Jehovah's Witnesses would be able to run underground somehow, that other people would be able to kind of take over for the governing body, who would, of course, be in prison. And Watchtower's not set up that way. It's not set up that way. It's not set up for Jehovah's Witnesses to no longer be getting magazines and books from Bethel and somehow still function and operate. Keep in mind, they don't even go to the little book study groups and private homes anymore. That used to be what they would call training for tribulation, training for the Great Tribulation. where everybody would have to meet in small groups because they wouldn't be able to meet in large groups anymore. Well, they don't do that anymore, probably because kids were probably getting molested in these separate homes and watchtowers getting sued. So they're like, okay, well, we're shutting that down. So if you send your kids to somebody else's home and something happens, you can't sue us anymore, right? So if Bethel is shut down, you're not getting any magazines, you're not getting any books, you no longer have jw.org, and you know with Jehovah's Witnesses, they almost can't even go door to door. They almost can't even preach to people anymore without saying, well, just go to jw.org. Just go there. All the answers are there. We don't know. Just go to jw.org. Well, if jw.org is shut down, you now have a bunch of mindless, zombified people who don't know how to do research on their own. They don't really know how to think on their own. Part of the reason why they're in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses is so that someone tells them what to do all the time. If you eliminate all of that, the entire cult falls apart. Without Bethel, without some sort of person to guide everyone, the entire organization falls apart. And some people used to say, well, Bethel would have some people escape. Right? If the governments were to take over Bethel, Bethel would have some people escape, and then they would somehow communicate to other people. But you have to really think about this. If Bethel were taken over by the authorities and the leaders, the governing body, were put into prison, Samuel heard would squeal like a little bitch. Like Sam Hurd is going to tell everything. All they have to do is grab him, push him in the chair in a forceful manner, grab his suspender, stretch it all the way out, and turn it loose. And as the suspenders come flying in and smack Sam Hurd's old chest, he would tell everything. He would tell them where all the people are hiding. If, let's say, there are tunnels at Bethel, he would tell them where everybody was hiding. He would tell it all. And the same goes for most of the governing body. Who in the governing body do you think would be able to resist some sort of torture or something to that effect? Stephen Lett is already going crazy and ain't even nothing happening to him. He just gets up on stage to give a talk and he's already doing all kind of crazy stuff with his face. If a person does this just normally as they talk just regular conversation, do you think if they're getting tased, oh my lands, it would just be overwhelming? He might scare everybody in the interrogation room. If you tase Stephen Lett with all the facial gyrations he does just talking normally, if you tase him, his face might explode. He's going to tell everything. Which governing body member? You had a governing body member going to the Australian Royal Commission, and they weren't persecuting them. They weren't torturing them. They weren't doing anything like that. But you had a governing body member that came before the jury at the Royal Commission, and it's on video, and they fold right there in front of everybody on video and say that, well, it'd be presumptuous to say, you remember, it'd be presumptuous to say that Jehovah's Witnesses are the only true religion. See, anytime Watchtower is put in the hot seat, so to speak, they fold when it comes to their teachings. So the organization itself has not shown any type of ability to withstand the actual headquarters being taken over. That would cut the head off the snake and the snake would die. There would be no real great tribulation. The only thing that would happen is they would seize Bethel, seize all the halls, shut down J.W. Ord, and there's the religion. You ain't got no more books coming out, no more magazines coming out, no more broadcasts. Y'all gonna be reading the same text over and over and over and over again because you ain't gonna get another text. You have a whole bunch of individual Jehovah's Witnesses that don't know what the heck to do because they're used to being told what to read, what to study, what to prepare for. Even when they go, I guess, stand next to carts or door to door, they have some kind of a spiel that they're told to tell people. So as far as the organization is concerned, any thinking person would have to know, once they seize Bethel, it's a wrap. No one else should be thinking that somehow Watchtower is going to function without the governing body, without Bethel, without JW.org. And on an individual level, if you're thinking, well, little packs of Jehovah's are going to be getting together and trying to function on their own, well, that's where the technology comes in. So with today's technology, there are cameras everywhere. You can't go anywhere. You can't go into stores without there being cameras. You can't be in the parking lot without there being cameras. So if Jehovah's Witnesses and their activities with standing next to carts and passing out magazines, which they would have no magazines. So if they were to be writing their own magazines, misspelling everything and trying to pass that out, it wouldn't work. There's cameras everywhere. You have people, and even if they found a place where there wasn't a whole lot of people and they're going to try to set up magazines, there are cameras. You're going to have one or the other. So if Jehovah's Witnesses were illegal, you would have people calling the cops on them anytime they saw them, or the cops would just be able to look at the camera footage. So it becomes impossible. And then as far as like well, they just stay in their house and write letters. There's apps. I have one that the U.S. Postal Service has where you can see the letters. To my knowledge, you can see the letters that are going to be sent. Like you can literally look at your phone. I have the app from the Postal Service where I can look at my phone and see what's going to be in my mailbox. So apparently they have the ability to track everything. Where it is, where it's coming from, all of that. You're not going to have people in mass sending out all kind of illegal information. If let's say it was propaganda, if the government turns on Jehovah's Witnesses, all that BS that they're preaching would be propaganda, it'd be illegal. You're not sending out letters with illegal stuff in it when we now have the technology to see the stuff before it even gets in our mailbox. So that's a wrap. And then someone would say, well, they'll just use Zoom. I mean, no. Because Zoom, different things like that, those things can be monitored. YouTube can be monitored. You don't have groups of illegal extremists on YouTube recruiting, because there's certain words, there's certain terms that can be programmed to where it'll automatically shut down. So if the government felt like, well, Jehovah's Witnesses are all trying to use Zoom, they've been using Zoom, they've been using apps like that, well, we'll just monitor them. Or we'll shut down the app. And you know there ain't no Jehovah Witness smart enough. If they are dumb enough to follow a doomsday cult where doomsday failed in 1975 and they still there ain't a single one of them smart enough to create their own app to where they're going to be able to meet online. So the concept is Jehovah's Witnesses are completely dependent on the governing body or on some sort of technology provided to them. And those technologies can be monitored and those technologies can be shut down. So you also aren't going to have groups of them meeting in people's houses. Keep in mind, they don't have no books. They ain't got nothing to study. So you got a bunch of empty-headed people. They ain't got nothing, no books, no magazines, no nothing to study. They can't go on jw.org to go find something to talk about. That's not going to work. The religion would be dead at that point. The religion would be dead at the point they pulled the plug on Bethel. At the point they slammed Sam Hurd square behind down into the chair and asked him, "Where are you meeting? Where's everybody at?" And he would tell them immediately, because they would rattle his false teeth. And I hear it's painful when your false teeth are rattling and banging up and rubbing against your gums. The friction of Sam Hurd's false teeth rubbing up against his gums in a very rapid pace would cause him to tell it all, tell everything. And not to mention, the shunning would then bite Jehovah's Witnesses in the ass. All that damn shunning that they've been doing for all this time, how are you going to hide now? Because in many cases, a person's family would help them hide if the government was after them. But Jehovah's Witnesses have done shunned all their family. So you expect some brother or sister so-and-so who ain't related to you at all, who would shun you in a second if the cult told them to now give their life for you. It makes no sense. Keep in mind, there ain't nobody in charge because they done shut down Bethel. So how are they going to hide? They're shunning their family. Their family's probably not going to help them. The only people that I would be okay with are the people who were not shunning. Let's say that you have a Jehovah's Witness and they don't shun you. Well, that's one thing. But if you have family members and they're shunning you and now their religion is illegal, how are they going to be able to continue to shun you now? It's no longer legal. All you got to do is tell on them. So, again, tell me how Jehovah's Witnesses survive a great tribulation when they have pissed off probably millions of people because they shun their own families. Your own families would turn on you, and it would be a wrap. We know where you are. I'll help. Hey, I'll help. The great tribulation for Jehovah's Witnesses would be the great jubilation for us. I'll help find them. They don't talk to me anyway. It would be a wrap. There's no way Jehovah's Witnesses in 2024 or beyond is going to be able to operate under, what do they call it, underground. They're not going to be able to do that with the technology that we have today. We can track freaking anybody. We can track a person with their phone. We can track a person with their phone. What else is Jehovah's Witnesses going to use to communicate other than the phone? We can track them with the phone. There's no way in 2024 and beyond they're surviving some tribulation because they're all hiding in some bunker. What bunker? They don't have a bunker. If they did, we would know about it because ex-Jehovah's Witnesses know more about Jehovah's Witnesses than Jehovah's Witnesses do. So if there was a bunker, we would know, and I would tell them where it was. And they would round them all up, and that would be it. So Jehovah's Witnesses are going to have to change that teaching. Great tribulation is going to have to mean something else. Back in the 1980s, it made more sense that people could function underground. The government, I don't know what the government had back then, but there was less technology to be able to track people that we were aware of back in the 80s. You probably could get away with a lot more. You didn't have cameras on freaking every house back then. So yeah, you could walk down the street. Yeah, you could probably try to proselytize or preach or something like that, and then maybe get out of there and drive off somewhere else to a different location before the cops got there. If back in the 80s, Jehovah's Witnesses were illegal and the government turned on them, they could probably come up with some way to still function, right? But not now, not with the technology that they have now. You're not going to be able to function. You're not going to be able to go to somebody's neighborhood and preach for a little while, then run off. They got you on camera. They got you on camera, freaking every house, darn near everywhere. You probably go to the hood. They probably got cameras in the hood now. You definitely got people hanging out all over the place with phones, and the phones have cameras on them. So if anybody saw a Jehovah's Witness doing any kind of activity, they'd be able to record them right there with their phone, and bam, we got you right here on camera. You're going to jail. Like, there's no way Jehovah's Witnesses survive a great tribulation. If the government really wanted them, and keep in mind, the masses can easily be controlled by the media and the things that are being put on TV. So it wouldn't be hard to turn the masses against Jehovah's Witnesses. They wouldn't even have to come up with any kind of false propaganda. Just tell them the truth. Just tell the masses the truth about all the children that were dying because Jehovah's Witnesses wouldn't let them have blood transfusion, parents watching their kids die, sacrificing their families, all the people who were shunned for decades by their own family members, the people that were kind of just put out on the street by their family because they didn't want to be a member of the cult. So the family's like, well, we're going to get rid of you the minute you turn, whatever is the legal age in that particular state. And then we're going to get rid of you because our ability to be a ministerial servant or an elder is way more important than the life of their own kids. Like once those things get out, the molestation and then having to face the accuser in front of a whole group of men and then them not telling the cops, like there are so many things that Jehovah's Witnesses have naturally done wrong. And then all the false teachings. The generation of 1914 that wouldn't pass away, 1975 being the end of the world, the beards being on, then the beards being off, then the beards being on. Like it would just be, all the media would have to do is present the truth about the cult. And people would turn against them. And freaking 9-year-olds have cell phones with cameras on them. Everybody would be able to capture Jehovah's Witnesses on film. Everybody. It is impossible for a large group of people, and I mean large not in a scale of large compared to mainstream religion. I mean just a group of people in a few million or even in the thousands are going to be able to function together and do it without anybody knowing, when everybody is darn near a walking camera with the cell phones. There's cameras on freaking darn near every house, every store almost. They couldn't even leave magazines in the freaking laundromat without being on camera or being spotted. Change the teaching. Change the Great Tribulation teaching. Because there's no way. There's no thinking Jehovah's Witness that could think that it would work. Because back in the day, we would talk about the Great Tribulation in our car groups. I don't know if you guys did, but in our car groups, we would talk about the Great Tribulation, and we would talk about the methods we would use to be able to communicate, to be able to meet together, to still be able to function. That was way back then, when I was younger as a kid in the car listening to people come up with all these different plans. Today, I don't even think Jehovah's Witnesses get together and talk about there being some kind of plan, because they ain't even dumb enough to think that they're going to be able to function and operate and ain't nobody going to know. They're going to have to change the teaching. Yet another teaching. They're going to have to change that. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. But the Great Tribulation teaching makes no sense. No sense. Especially it being a period of time, a longer period of time. Because the minute Bethel is shut down, it's a wrap for Jehovah's Witnesses. They can't function. They can't hide anywhere. You got too many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't think that Jehovah's Witnesses put us in the equation when they're talking about hiding and whatnot. We all know where you are. You know what I mean? And you ain't hiding for very long. Especially all the shunning and stuff that has been done to a lot of us. You know, we'd be the first ones to point out where everybody is. So comment down below. Let me know what you think. X Walk Kill Bethelite signing out.